Ever stumble onto a box of photo negatives at the family home or in a thrift store? Have you wondered if there is a way to develop them without turning to an old-fashioned darkroom or film lab? Well, you can develop photos from negatives in Adobe Photoshop for fun. In this video, I'll show you two methods for developing film using Photoshop. But before we begin, if you want a discounted Adobe Creative Cloud subscription, check the notes below for an exclusive link that we have for you. It'll help you get a discount on an annual subscription to Adobe Creative Cloud so you can keep up on the creative projects like those on this channel. Now, when it comes to taking negatives and developing them in Photoshop, there are three things that we need to keep in mind: lighting, lens, and quality. Thankfully, for our purposes, we already have the best tool possible for this process: our smartphones. Now, we're going to use our smartphone to take a picture of our negative film and then import it into Photoshop. However, you can't just slap the negative on a desk, shine a light on it, and take a picture. No, you need to backlight the photo, which requires a little something I call the rig. So how do we best keep these three things in mind when we shoot our negatives? Now, the rig is a simple tool to help you prep negatives for digitizing. You'll need a light source and two items of equal height to support the negative across the light source without letting the negative touch the light source. So my suggestion: take an old smartphone you don't use, just sitting in a drawer, raise the brightness and open up a white background. Then take two spools, for thread, and set them on opposite sides of the length of the phone. Then place your negative strip across the two spools and keep the film above the light source. Now you need to balance the negatives over a bright enough light source to make this work. If your negative is smaller, you can use a pair of smaller pliers to hold a corner of the negative and then elevate those pliers slightly higher than the light source. It just requires a little rigging on your end. Now that we have those details, let's prepare our photo for development. You're going to take a photo of a photo. Trust me, it will make sense when you do it. Our first step is to use our rig. Set the negatives over a light source and snap a photo with our actual smartphone at the highest resolution possible in macro mode, if you can. And remember, do not place your negative directly on the light source. It'll overpower the values of the negative. Be sure you also shoot in a dark room as well. Also, suppose you want to get serious about developing film negatives in Photoshop. In that case, you should create a light box to control your output better. Something that can cut out excess environmental light for the best results. But that's a topic for another video. Let's keep going. Now, with your photograph taken, simply import the photo into Photoshop and get ready to work. So I'm going to be working with an image that I downloaded from Wikipedia for this video. I have a link to the image in the notes so that you can use it too. From here, I'll show you two color correction processes. Each works, but one is just a simpler version of the other. Remember that your results will change based on your photo's lighting, lens, and quality. So the first tool we're going to use is the Curves tool. First, make a copy of your inverted negative on a new layer. Right-click the inverted layer in your Layers palette and select Duplicate Layer. To keep things organized, I'll ask you to name the layer Curves. Named layers will make a comparison between methods easier later. Now, with your duplicated layer, you should head to Image in the topmost menu. Under Menu, you'll find Adjustments, then select Curves. The Curves menu, it can be a little complicated, so if you want an in-depth explainer video on how it works, please let me know. Hey, I'm here to help. For our purpose though, we're just going to go over some basics. The Curves menu creates an adjustment layer that lets you tweak an image's shadows, highlights, and midtones separately. This tool will enable you to change contrast levels and adjust individual saturations within an image, allowing you to fine-tune the play between dark and light in a snap. Now, if that sounds like technical jargon, well, think of it this way. We're just tweaking color, highlights, and shadows. Now, you'll see in the Curves window, you have what appears to be a graph with an X and Y axis. The Y axis, the vertical side, represents the output level, and the X axis represents the input level at 5 values. Blacks, the leftmost, shadows, midtones, highlights, and whites on the rightmost side. Now, I aim to manipulate the curvature line within the graph to adjust the values on these axes to make the image look sharper and more natural. Trust me, This process will make more sense as we play with it, so let's just go and do so. We will stay in the RGB channel to take the negative and color correct it. But if you want to play with the presets and the channels, hey, go for it. Why not experiment? Undo exists for a reason. Now, below the graph, you'll see what appears to be 3 distinct eyedropper tools. The first from the left samples black tones, the middle samples gray tones, the rightmost one samples white tones. We want to use the middle dropper to create a sample of a neutral tone in the image. For me, that was the shadowed part of the slide. Notice already that the image, while a little yellow and orange in tone, already feels more natural. Selecting a midtone also created red, green, and blue lines in the graph that represent the color changes that have been made. Now, my goal is to manipulate the black line's curvature to adjust the colors that I see. In my case, this is a Polaroid photo, so my goal is to create warm, inviting colors. Old photographs of the period tended to have slightly warmer tones anyway, and I think that this would suit the image. Having red, orange, and yellow tones help, but I also need to provide green so that the image feels a bit more natural. Regarding my adjustments, I played with the shadows and the midtones a bit, adding and adjusting based on what looked good to me. Also, note that my adjustments on the curves aren't overly dramatic. You'll find that more minor variations in curvature look stronger than huge spikes. Ultimately, you'll have different curve adjustments depending on your negative. Now that's the fun part, right? Playing with the line and creating adjustment points can be exciting, and you'll pick up a lot with just adjusting. So take some time, drink plenty of water, and eat a sandwich as you play with this tool. Now, I also did an earlier version that feels a little more washed out and neutral in color. What looks best to you may be an issue of preference, but this one also has a distinct feel. After playing around a bit more, this is where I arrived. I changed my gray sample to the top part of the slide. While this one is probably more accurate, I don't think it looks as nice, but it also depends on the feel that you're seeking. My earlier one with the warmer tones makes more sense to me. Feels more inviting. When adjusting the image, I like duplicating my inverted layer, trying a new curves adjustment, and then comparing or blending layers with layer styles to arrive at something even better. For example, I had 3 different adjustments, but taking the warmer layer and setting it to darker color on my more neutral tone version looks good. It makes the playground concrete less stark and warm it up without growing too orange in tone. If this reminds you of Instagram filters, well, that kind of makes sense. But you see, what I'm doing is what most Instagram filters do. We're essentially making our own color filters. All of this is well and good and will allow you to fine-tune your color values in an image that you've taken from a scanned negative to a developed photo. But what if you want to do this just a little bit faster? Maybe make quick and dirty photo developments from negatives a skill set. Well, follow along as we look at the second method of developing film using Photoshop. Our second method is known as color balance. Essentially, it's just a shortcut version of the curves tool. We can do much of the same process, but we won't have as much control as we would otherwise. This method can quickly develop a photo with more natural colors if you recognize the color imbalances in an inverted negative. So our first step is duplicating our inverted negative from earlier in the video. Once we have that layer duplicated and renamed color balanced, we can begin the process. And we'll go into the image menu at the topmost options of Adobe Photoshop. We will then go to Adjustments and then select Color Balance. You'll see a very different window with 3 predominant sliders. Each slider represents an inverse pairing on the color wheel. We have cyan and red, magenta and green, and yellow and blue. Below the sliders, we see options for tone balance. We have shadows, midtones, and highlights, like our eyedroppers in the curves menu, remember? Photoshop's AI will detect the range of tones for you, so stick to method 1 if you prefer more control. Maybe you're a control freak, like me. Now, after the initial AI adjustment, we see that our developed photo is very, very blue, and that should be our first hint and how we might adjust the levels on the slider. We want to pull away from the blue tones in the image. So on the slider, I'll adjust my midtones away from cyan, green, and blue. While this does look better, it is still a little washed out because I am on midtones. So let's go now play with the shadows. Again, the overall color of my developed photo is a bit blue, so Keep that in mind as we adjust the shadows. With the shadows option selected in tone balance, I made further adjustments. Again, I'm moving from cyan, green, and blue, but less, as these colors are essential in creating rich shadows. Lastly, we'll adjust our highlights. So select the highlights option in tone balance and adjust the sliders to what you feel looks best. Now, our changes won't be as significant here because adjusting highlights too far a direction for some of these pairs can result in images washing out or just ending up garish. You'll notice I leaned more into blue and green here for the highlights because I feel that they looked better overall. It will be hard to get these at first, and if it takes a couple of layers and attempts to get something that works, hey, that's fine. You're going to learn as you go. You can even find that combining color balanced layers results in some strong options. For example, I had one color balanced layer that became more cyan than the other. However, I set it to color burn as a layer adjustment and then set the opacity to 65% over my first attempt and got this image that feels much stronger overall. It can be really easy to find yourself spending a ton of time making minor adjustments. So if you feel like you might go a little crazy with the fine tuning of the curves tool, just try the color balance method instead. And hey, you can always adjust the output again further, separately. Heck, even combining different attempts works well. So to sum it up, we've learned today that color balance is a faster and less accurate method. It does give you less control over your output too. But if you want more control, the curves method is best for developing old photos using Photoshop. My preference? Well, definitely the curves tool. Now, if you have a stack of old negatives in a box, why not try developing them? And if you enjoyed this tutorial, please do us a favor, like this video, subscribe to the channel. And if you want to know when new videos are out, hit the notification bell. That's it. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.